I'm Tanya Peel. I'm creating a show mixed with family recipes and vintage finds. When I find a vintage dish, I'm always wondering, if you could talk, what would your story be? Where did you come from, and whose hands have touched you? Whose home have you been in, and how far did you travel to get to me? After discovering a new vintage piece, I'm almost always thinking about a meal my mom or granny prepared for me, how that made me feel to eat something so delicious made with love, and how I can serve up my own creations to feed my family and friends. It's how I show love. So if you think about it, it makes sense to blend the two, because every dish has a story.
Episode 6, The Balenciaga of Food, Helen Corbitt, with poppy seed peas and popovers and her sinful dessert. Today we step into the world of a woman who transformed America dining and put Texas on the map for sophistication. This is the story of Helen Corbitt, the force who taught Dallas society to eat with style and grace. She didn't just serve meals. She staged experiences that would shape the way generations of Americans cooked and dined. Now, before I discovered who Helen was, it was just another sunny California morning, and I wandered into a hilltop estate sale. Right away I knew the lady of this home had class. Cookbooks stacked high, handwritten recipe cards, lovingly organized, serving pieces that whispered of dinner parties long past. Some people think it's odd to sift through someone's belongings, but to me, it's an honor. These pieces tell stories, and I get to carry them forward. Back home, I started paging through those recipe catalogs, and then I found it, an old newspaper clipping. A red-headed woman cradling a dreamy dessert in her hands. The caption read, "Men diners in the Zodiac Room call this Helen's sinful dessert." What is this dessert? Where is the Zodiac Room? And who in the world is Helen? I was hooked. My hunt for her story took me beyond that clipping and into the life of a woman who became America's first true celebrity chef. Helen Lucy Corbitt was born in New York in 1906. Her father was a prominent lawyer and her mother ran a dressmaking business. Food mattered in the household, and that's where Helen picked up her first cooking skills. She studied nutrition and home economics at Skidmore College, graduating with a BS in 1928. Helen often said her education taught her to distinguish the excellence from the second rate and to care about the difference, a woman after my own heart. Then in 1940, Texas came calling. Her reaction to this request? Who the hell wants to go to Texas? Only she didn't say hell in those days. She learned to swear in Texas, she said. At the University of Texas, she turned a struggling tea room into the talk of the campus. At Austin's historic Driscoll Hotel, she proved that she could run with the big leagues. And all the while, Stanley Marcus of Neiman Marcus was watching. In 1949, Stanley sent Helen Corbitt a telegram offering her position at Neiman Marcus with a dazzling salary and promises of bonuses. It was the start of an 8-year courtship. Helen resisted every attempt until finally, in 1955, she accepted. With that decision, the Zodiac Room gained the visionary who would redefine dining in Dallas. Now, imagine walking into a restaurant inside a department store, yet it felt as glamorous as dining in Paris or New York. When Helen Corbitt arrived at Neiman Marcus in 1955, she took charge of the Zodiac Room and transformed it. What had been a stylish cafe quickly became a destination, buzzing with society lunches and whispered about well beyond Dallas. While department stores already had tea rooms and lunch counters, Helen elevated the experience. Menus with her signature touches, impeccable presentation, and a sense of theater that felt entirely new. Under her leadership, the Zodiac Room became more than a dining room. It became the heart of the store's most dazzling events. Each fall, Neiman Marcus hosted its famed International Fortnight, a 2-week celebration that turned the entire store into a showcase for another country. And right in the center of it all was Helen, curating Zodiac Room menus that brought the theme to life on the plate. She wasn't just serving lunch, she was staging an experience, blending culture, theater, and food in a way that only she could. Take British Fortnight, for example. The room was a spectacle. Union Jack bunting, English garden flowers, polished silver glinting under the lights. Helen's menu carried the theme straight onto the plate, giving Dallas society a taste of Britain without ever crossing the Atlantic. Even now, looking at those decorations, you can feel the energy of diners swept up in an international adventure. Every detail, every bite, carrying Helen's unmistakable flair. And Helen wasn't just dazzling Dallas with her food, she was running her kitchen with absolute authority. She said people eat with their eyes first, their hearts second, and their stomachs third, she liked to remind her staff. She introduced elegant salads, towering popovers, and yes, sinfully delicious desserts. She even made Dallas society fall in love with the avocado, turning it into the most exotic thing on earth. Her philosophy was simple: use the finest ingredients, present them beautifully, and never underestimate your guests' taste for quality. But make no mistake, Helen had backbone. When Stanley Marcus suggested simple sandwiches for a store event, she shot back. "Stanley, darling, if you want sandwiches, there's a deli down the street. If you want Neiman Marcus magic, let me work." In her kitchen hung a plaque that read, "This is the kitchen of Helen Corbitt. I'm the boss. If you don't believe me, start something." And she meant it. When opera star Maria Callas arrived more than 30 minutes late for a party of 30, Helen calmly broke down the tables in the restaurant and fed the waiting diners. When Maria Callas finally swept in, Helen sent her straight to the back of the line. That took Texas-sized guts with New York attitude. Her authority and her style won her national recognition. She became one of the first women to win the Golden Plate Award, the food industry's highest honor. Presidents and celebrities requested her catering, and every star who passed through Dallas wanted a seat in the Zodiac Room. Bob Hope, Carol Burnett, Charlton Heston, and the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. Even Princess Margaret. And Stanley Marcus himself crowned her the Balenciaga of food. High praise from a man who knew luxury. Helen wasn't content to dazzle only from the Zodiac Room. She wanted to share her secrets. She taught cooking classes, wrote detailed cookbooks, and genuinely wanted to elevate home cooking across America. Her recipes were precise but accessible, elegant but achievable. She even held cooking classes for select businessmen in her apartment, proving Texas men wanted more than just steak and potatoes. Can you picture it? Oil barons and cattle ranchers learning holiday sauce from a fiery redhead who didn't take any sass? It was rumored that to get into the group, someone had to die or leave town. Now that's a pretty good cooking class. Helen wrote 5 cookbooks, and reading them is like having a conversation with your most entertaining aunt, if your aunt happened to be a culinary genius. She explained recipes in a way that made you believe you could actually pull off her magic tricks in your own kitchen. One of Helen's notes that I love: "Don't be afraid to cook with alcohol. The sin and the spirits disappear in the air." It wasn't just her food that made Helen legendary, it was her presence. She never married, though reports say she was engaged 3 times, choosing work she loved over a life that might have pulled her from the kitchen. Stanley Marcus called her his wild Irish genius, and the description fit: styling, exacting, and wickedly funny. Friends in high places adored her cooking, most famously Lyndon and Lady Bird Johnson, and her dishes even found their way to the White House tables. Helen Corbitt passed away in 1978, but her influence on American dining continues today. She taught Dallas society how to eat with style, but more importantly, she showed us that food isn't about showing off, it's about showing love. So here's to Helen Corbitt, the red-headed rebel who proved the way to change the world isn't through revolution, but through revelation. Let's carry her story forward, one perfectly prepared dish at a time. Now, let's get cooking some of Helen's famous recipes. Helen's chicken salad wasn't just a dish. It was the dish of the Zodiac Room and still is 70 years later. Light, elegant, and served with her signature popovers. It quickly became one of the most ordered items on the menu. Dallas society ladies would come downtown just for this salad. lingering over it as though it were a 5-star entree in Paris. It became a kind of culinary status symbol. If you were meeting friends at Neiman Marcus, chances are you were ordering Helen's chicken salad. This salad offers tender cubes of chicken, crispy celery, sweet tart grapes, and toasted almonds, and a delicate whisper of parsley, all enveloped in a luscious, velvety dressing enriched with whipped cream. This ain't your Southern chicken salad for sure, but it is delicious, and it will definitely be in my repertoire from here on out. Thank you, Helen Corbitt. This chicken salad, you need 2½ cups of diced cold chicken, 1 cup of finely chopped celery, 1 cup of sliced white grapes, 2 tablespoons of minced parsley. I used Italian parsley. A 1/2 cup of shredded brown almonds. I toasted mine in the pan in butter and added some salt. 1 cup of mayonnaise. And a 1/2 cup of whipped cream. Whisk until firm. One teaspoon of salt. You can combine and serve in lettuce cups or eat with one of the popovers. If you want a little garnish, you can use some parsley or stuffed olive sliced thin. Cowboy caviar, or originally known as Texas caviar. It's been written that Helen invented this simple, delicious black-eyed pea salad in Austin in 1940. Helen was asked to do a convention dinner using only Texas products, one of those items being the black-eyed pea, a most sacred Southern ingredient. Helen reacted with an unmentionable phrase because she despised black-eyed peas. So what did she do? She created the Texas caviar. Black-eyed peas served in a sauce of oil, vinegar, garlic, and onion. This became her most iconic creation, taking the humble black-eyed pea and elevating them with the glamorous name caviar. So here we go, 32 ounces of black-eyed peas. I cooked my black-eyed peas down with 5 cloves of garlic. You want a 1/2 cup of sliced onion, whether you want to slice them or dice them, whatever your preference is, it won't matter. In Helen's original recipe, she only did black-eyed peas and onions with the olive oil and vinegar, salt, and pepper. These days, people zhuzh their Texas caviar up with adding a different bean, corn, cilantro, jalapeno, sometimes red pepper or green pepper. Because I had tomato and jalapeno and cilantro on hand, I'm going to go ahead and add it. All right, that looks like a good cup of tomatoes. I'm gonna do a little jalapeno. I like to leave the seeds in because I like hot things. If you don't like hot things, you can use a green pepper or a red pepper. Next, I have a bunch of cilantro. I don't even know how much this is. It's probably, when it's all chopped down, about 2 to 3 tablespoons. Not even that, maybe 2 tablespoons. I'm just gonna do a rough chop. If you don't like cilantro, you can leave it out. Now we're ready to add our wet ingredients. We wanna put a little pepper, 1/2 teaspoon. So depending on how you salted your black-eyed peas, I salted mine as they were cooking. You're going to need at least a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then you need to use your palate to taste and see if you need more. I'm gonna start out with 3/4 cups of Wesson oil. I don't want it to be too oily. And then we have a 1/4 cup of vinegar. I have red wine vinegar. And then you wanna just give a mix. If you can let this sit overnight, it's going to be better. If you want more garlic, you can cut up more fresh garlic. Something else that would be really great that I've done it before is I've even toasted garlic. I've sliced garlic up and cooked it in some butter on top of the stove and then put that in here, and it also has a really nice crunch. It's super delicious. I think it needs a little more salt. I have a lemon in the refrigerator, and I think adding a little squeeze of that will make it really good. I don't have my squeezer, so I'm gonna use my hand, and I'm gonna squeeze the lemon through my fingers to catch the seeds. And I think a 1/2 lemon, I'm gonna start with that. Ooh, Helen knew what she was doing. She knew flavors. The next famous recipe was born of co-founder Stanley Marcus's desire to feed people getting restless something delicious while they waited in line for a table at the Zodiac. So he turned to Helen for a solution. She came up with the idea of a popover. As a light, fluffy bread has just a few ingredients: butter, flour, salt, eggs, and milk, and it was super easy to bake. She served hers with strawberry butter, which was itself the product of an inspired decision to add strawberry preserves to whisked butter. This simple but brilliant combination elevated the humble popover into something truly special. This practical solution of a warm and crisp starter became one of Dallas's most beloved culinary traditions. First thing we're going to do is we're going to preheat our oven to 450 degrees. And while it's preheating, I'm going to put our popover pan in the oven. We want it nice and hot before we put the popover mix in. Take 2 eggs and whisk those until they're light. We have 1 cup of sifted all-purpose flour. And then we want to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We just want to get this a little whisk. So now we want to add 7/8 cup of lukewarm milk into our egg mixture. And to this we want to add 1 tablespoon of melted butter. And now we want to incorporate our flour. It's almost like a pancake mix, and you really don't want to overmix. I mean, that's it. So now while the pan is really hot, you want a butter brush. And now you want to fill just 1/3 up. Don't overfill. So it's good to have a spout on your batter bowl. So we want to put those in at 450 degrees for 20 minutes, and then we're going to reduce it to 350 for another 15 minutes. They'll be delicious when they come out. Poppy seed dressing. 2 teaspoons of dried mustard, 3 tablespoons of onion juice, 1½ cups of sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 3 tablespoons of poppy seeds, 2/3 cup of vinegar, 2 cups of salad oil, but never olive oil. Whisk until thick. Pour over your favorite fruit or salad. Makes 3½ cups. Wow, these flavors. You can see why Helen's food made such an impact. Her chicken salad is light and elegant. Her Texas caviar takes something very humble, the black-eyed pea, and just makes it shine with the vinegar and the olive oil and the onions and the garlic. It's so delicious. And these popovers are like little clouds, and with the strawberry butter, so good. And the poppy seed dressing, it's tangy and sweet all at once. And of course, Helen's sinful dessert is going to be pure indulgence. I can't wait to show that next. Helen's sinful dessert. What I love about this dessert is how Helen understood the power of presentation. A brandy snifter isn't just a glass, it's theater. And the layering technique she used creates this beautiful visual that's almost too pretty to eat. Almost. Let's start with the foundation of 1 tablespoon of Nesselrode sauce in the bottom of the brandy snifter. For those of you who might not know, Nesselrode is this wonderful mixture of candied fruit and nuts, often with a touch of Spanish wine or rum. I use Spanish wine for this. Nesselrode sauce origins lie in the 19th century dessert known as Nesselrode pudding or Nesselrode cream. The dessert was created for Count Nesselrode by his chef, and it was popular among high society. Next comes the perfect ball of vanilla ice cream. Helen was very specific about this, that it needed to be a perfect circular shape, to a proper ball, not just scooped. The presentation was everything to her. Now here's where the magic happens. Freshly grated coconut all over the ice cream ball. Helen insisted on using fresh coconut and not the dried kind. See how it creates that snowy effect? And now for the crowning glory, 1.5 tablespoons of Cointreau drizzled right over the top. See how it pools around the base and soaks into the coconut. Helen would say this dessert was sinful because it was pure indulgence. No apologies, no guilt, just absolute deliciousness. And this is where Helen's theatrical sense really shined. She didn't just serve this dessert, she presented it like a gift. Can you imagine the delight on the guests' faces when this arrived at their table? The theatrical presentation, the wonderful aroma of the coconut. Helen knew exactly how to create a moment. And I love the story behind the name. One of Helen's regular customers called it Helen's Sinful Dessert, and the name just stuck. And that's the kind of personal connection Helen created with her guests. They felt like they were a part of her culinary family. All right, so it's time to taste. I have been waiting months, probably 3 or 4 months since I came across this article at the estate sale, to making the Nesselrode sauce, to making it perfect in this beautiful, lovely crystal glass. I even hunted down this crystal glass to do this dessert exactly how she had it in her photo. All right, here we go. Wow, it's really boozy. Oh, it's so good. This is really delicious. And it's simple. Once you make the Nesselrode sauce, the dessert's pretty much done. It definitely has a Christmas kind of feel to it because of the dried fruit. But it's way better than any kind of dried fruit concoction like a fruit cake, in my opinion, because this is soaked in booze and it's pretty delicious. One of the best parts of researching Helen Corbitt is the delightful way it introduces me to new storytellers and to their stories. Take Ivan Masser, the photographer behind this iconic image of Helen and her sinful dessert. As I dug into Helen's world, I ended up learning about Ivan's career too, and how he was on the front line capturing pivotal moments like Selma and other defining scenes of the civil rights era. That is the true magic of this process. Every recipe, photograph, or clipping becomes a portal, not in just to one life, but into countless others whose stories quietly shaped our history. And to Ivan's son, David, thank you so much for getting back to me and showing me your support. I really am grateful for that. I also want to pause and give a special thank you to Mary Kay Kuntz and to the University of Dallas for your incredible Helen Corbitt archives. Your dedication to preserving her papers, recipes, and photographs make it possible for all of us to continue learning from her legacy. So I am grateful. And to all of you watching, thank you for coming along on this culinary journey with me. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so we can keep uncovering these stories together.